But yeah, I really appreciate you coming on. And I know we talked earlier uh, when we were on when I was on the casual. You were saying like, hey, anytime you have somebody in mind, and I kept you in mind, and I had a little spot open, so I'm like, hey, let's get Chris on and let's do some chatting about some music and stuff. And like you were saying, I thought you were local. I did not know that. I think I saw that you were in LA or around the California area, but I thought it was just you were going on vacation or something. And when you were telling me the other day, like, no, I've been here for like 3 years. I'm like, oh geez, so that's news to me.
It's funny. I had never left Philly, like I told you. I think I'd been to across I'd been to Europe twice or something like that, and I'd been
Nice.
across the country. But then I sort of, when it actually came to moving away, that's something that's very difficult to do. Actually, Philadelphia has a very strong gravity about it.
I was
So
just gonna say, like, even if you leave Philly, do you ever really leave Philly though?
not really. No, I carry that chip on my shoulder every day.
Yeah.
It's it's great. I mean, I'm I do miss Philly. I can't wait to get back there. But it is great to get it. Basically the idea of, I really do miss my local music scenes and friends and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But and of course out here, there's not a lot going on because they're very serious about the pandemic. So I've been doing everything virtually. I actually
Yeah.
I did some karaoke at a wedding last
Nice.
weekend, and it was the first time I had an audience outside of my
It's
virtual
it's
audience.
crazy, isn't it? Like
It is. It was.
when you first hear that like audience like applause and everything, you're like, oh, thank God, it's what I've been longing for.
I really, yeah. And I was actually. It was funny. I sort of forgot how. I remember I got up there in the first one. I forgot to take the mic out of the mic stand, and I was just kind of like standing there like Dracula at the mic stand. I'm like, wow, this relearning how to perform outside my house thing is actually serious.
Yeah, it's like you're trying to learn all over again. Because even when I played a show back in October, and that was like 8 months since I've been in front of a crowd, and like you said, I was doing a lot of virtual stuff, and even then, I was getting like bored, and like I needed some type of refreshing of just doing virtual things 2 3 times a week, and that's one thing how this show was born. And then I started getting gigs back. I got a gig in this past October, and it was just even loading in was just like, because you when you're loading into your gigs, you have like a system, and you're like, okay, load in, take this first, take that, then setting up everything. It's like I felt so out of whack because I haven't done it in so long because I was in such a rhythm back then, and then like when you get taken away from that for a couple months and then get pushed right back into it, you're like, okay, I mean, let me see if I remember how to do this.
Yeah. And I think I never really had that extensive a record of doing open mics. Like I did them more earlier in my life. Maybe like almost 7 or 8 years ago. I used to play weekly, but I
Uh-huh.
played at a couple of places. But I was still kind of, I've gotten a lot better lately at integrating all of my stuff together. And I've been like, I wonder what it would be like to actually take this out and play.
Yeah.
I think it'll be happening fairly soon, and I feel like my confidence has really gotten a lot better in terms of just like I play about, I'd say, twice a week, if not more, on the
Mm-hmm.
decon page,
Yeah.
and just like if I go back and watch the stuff from when I started, uh, and versus now, the when I have a mic, mic stand, I have an interface and everything. At first, I started recording on my phone and all that, just shrieking at your phone like a
Yeah.
classic thing. But now I'm trying
Right.
to, I feel like I got this nice portable setup, and I could just kind of slide up to a bar, that's doing an open mic, and just kind of quickly. I feel like my load in and load out. You would laugh. It's like open laptop, plug in MIDI keyboard, plug in PreSonus, press on switch on microphone. It's pretty
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah, man. And that's how, because I know I mean, you've been a musician, but you're kind of starting out getting into, physically playing for people. And that's something that, when I was coming out of my band scene, I started playing a lot of my own stuff and actually starting to write a lot of my own music because I've never written anything for myself. I've had my, like, 2 cents of like lyric writings and like a riff for a band, but I've never actually composed or wrote an actual song by myself that was written and composed by myself. So when I had finished my full first EP, I was like, wow. mean, I'm happy with these. I mean, it's as good as what I had intended for being a songwriter for the first time. But then I'm like, oh crap, I gotta be out in front of people and like start performing this stuff. I've never been on stage, but I mean, one or two times I had like a school performance, and I did like a variety show or a talent show in high school, and I was up in front of people, but nothing of to the point I was like, okay, I mean, I want to maybe try to start doing like a solo career and doing shows and stuff by myself and being up there for more than like 5 minutes. So the open mic scene is where I started, and I tell that to everybody. That's a best place to start, especially if you want to start doing something by yourself. Go to the open mic scenes, because no matter where you go, and I've been to a handful of open mics, and it's although they're different venues, but the vibe is always the same. Everybody is so open and willing to listen to you and give you constructive criticism on your performances as well, and that even you take that with however you want to take it. But I felt that boosted my confidence with being able to be up there for a certain amount of time, because usually you're getting like 2-3 songs, so usually 10-15 minutes or so. But yeah, I really gotta give a lot of credit to the open mic scenes that I went to starting out, because if it wasn't for that, I don't know how I would have gained the confidence. I would have just started out cold and kind of just learned from there. But I think going to a couple open mics at first really helped me mold my confidence and really know how I wanted to present myself out there. And then just as I got into playing my own shows, and getting my image down and how to address a crowd, because I'm a shy person when it comes to just like anything. So I still to this day have a hard time kind of just being that leader in a conversation. I've always been a follower, so this show has definitely been a strength to help that. I always take it as like a weakness, but it's definitely becoming one of my strengths as becoming a leader in a talking type of situation, in a conversation. So yeah, I mean, and everything kind of spirals into that. So doing the open mic scenes, man, I definitely gotta say you're on the right track.
Yeah, and I actually think it was when I originally started to develop some confidence as a human being, was when, because I think we talked about it when we were on when you were on the Casual
Uh-huh.
our podcast, with me and Zach. But I believe that it's just like when you start and you are shy. And especially, I told you, I think a lot of my stuff is like producing stuff in my bedroom, right? And it's like very few friends and confidants would even. I have a little SoundCloud with some stupid stuff I made a few years ago, but I'm very, what's the word? I've been holding my cards close to the vest for for decades now at this point. But like the open mic, I didn't do originals or anything because I didn't have any.
Yeah.
But it was just like, once you get out there and you start nailing a couple of them, and you actually can make people kind of sit up and take notice, then you're like, was that
Yeah.
me?
Right.
You can really build from there. Like, so I agree with Anthony 100% that it's very necessary to start with the open mics, and especially you have to have some friends there. Some people who you
Mm-hmm.
trust who
Yeah.
gas you up, because otherwise,
Yeah.
you can't be sure whether, because you don't want to flop your first time. Like, that's the one thing
Yeah,
you have to.
right. I
Bring
was so
10 friends.
scared going my first time, because like you never know, you don't know the vibes of those certain things at first. You're like, okay, are these people gonna boo me off stage? Are they gonna be like kind of looking at me like, why are you even up here, buddy? But
They
even
start talking
even if
over you. That's the worst,
yeah,
right?
they start talking over. I'm like,
It's
okay,
like people are just like, so anyway, where do you work? And you're like, fuck.
right.
Sorry, I
So
don't know
what
if we do we
time?
curse
So
on this
what?
show.
I mean, it's live usually. So
I'm
if we
saying,
happen
I'm
if we
a
happen to do it, it don't matter. I mean, there's no censors on here. So,
I'm
but
an
if there's
adult man.
anything
I
that
can use words. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
if I have to, I always just I can always just do like a a censor thing, for because usually I'll upload this thing to Podbean and Spotify and Apple Podcasts later. So
Cool.
if I need to, I think they're usually okay with language. But if you have to just address either saying they go, this certain episode has a little bit of excessive language, or I can just cut out little blippets of certain things. So
I promise you, we don't necessarily keep it clean on the casual, but I'm quite capable of it. So I'll make it.
And usually
I'll
I
regard
don't
it as a
mind
personal.
as long as it's not like people being like every word, like curse every 5 seconds. Hey, then that's a little excessive. But if we're just in conversation and just those things come up, it's natural. We're human.
Okay.
We're all adults. I don't try to be like it just comes up. It comes up. It don't matter to me, man.
Okay. Um, So I didn't mean to get you off track.
Nah.
Please, because I was going to say that. So the idea of like what I've really been working on lately is trying to take my DAW setup. Like I have a ton of effects and stuff in audio and routings in Ableton that I've been using for my live streams. So like I had one where I made this chain where my voice was bouncing from to the right, and then also going through like reverbs and stuff like that, and it actually translated brilliantly through Facebook Live.
Uh-huh.
It took me, I think, about 6 times I tried to do this stuff, and it just kept not
Yeah.
working. And I was like, I'll never get this right, but
Yeah,
I
that's the
got
thing.
it.
You have to definitely do a lot of trial and error when it comes to that. Because I did a couple studio streams, live streams before this actually started, and I wish. I mean, I really want to try to do that a couple more times. I was just recording a couple, some new music and just going through some takes and just guitar takes and stuff. And I went through Logic Pro and just I love the cause and effect of these things because it's like you have to figure out the puzzle of like, okay, where does this connect to, and this routes to here, and this is going in through there. I love that type of cause and effect and
Me
figuring out
too.
problems. I'm always like, I love figuring out problems. If something's actually like going wrong or something's like not switching all right, okay, where's this? Like this is hooked up to here, and then figure out like I can lose myself in a couple hours figuring out something until I get it right.
And I can tell you this: one of the things that brings Zach and I together as friends is that we're both completely obsessive like that too. Like when there's something, it's like, darn it, why doesn't this work? Darn it, why doesn't this work? He'll keep doing it for like he has that youthful energy. He can keep doing it for 10 hours.
Yeah,
Like
right.
I won't hear from him, and then I'll hear from him the next day, and he's like, "Yeah, I stayed up till 5 a.m. I fixed it."
Yeah, man. I used to be able to do the 2, 3 o'clock in the morning stuff, man. And
Well, you
once,
have a family.
yeah, now that I have a family, I mean, it's like okay, you're crashing by like 11, 12 o'clock, and that's if little guy gets up because he's been getting up here and there, and we're trying to start doing the letting him cry it out type deal. And we did that for the first time last night, and we're just like in our bed, like we want to go in there, but like just let him kind of cry it out for a couple of minutes, see what happens, and then so you never want to see your kid crying or anything, but he was okay. But it's just like one of those things. It's like probably one of the hardest things out of these last like 11 months. Just kind of watching him like not that he was like in distress, but people with kids really know how that works. That it's like you never want to see your kid cry, but he's okay, but you're
Right.
trying not to go in and because he's to the point where he knows that, and eventually we're gonna come in and pick him up and put him at the bed, but we're trying to get him to that point where he knows he can definitely fall asleep on his own. It's just but if he knows that we're gonna come in, he'll stay up.
I completely understand, and I was just gonna say that I do not have any children, but I do have an incredibly needy dog, and he's actually looking at me from like he was like you were right before I got on this call. I looked over and he had his paws like over his face like this. He was just looking at me with one eye, being all evil. It was really funny.
Yeah.
But like I was looking at my steps on my phone, and I averaged like 12,000 steps or something for like a whole week because I was just like walking them a lot.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, so I'm walking about 5 miles a day just with this little dude, just to like keep, because otherwise, if you have a super active dog and you don't give them the exercise they need, it's actually like to me, like that's one of the worst things when people do that. It's like if
Yeah.
you're gonna get yourself a crazy dog that is like from a farm, you're gonna lose some weight. And,
Right.
you're gonna be out there walking for hours and hours and hours every single day.
Mm-hmm.
So that's actually where I get a lot of my songwriting and stuff done. And I listen to a ton of podcasts and whatever. I'm always out with the dog, and it's just like that's one of the great things about Cali is especially San Jose is that just about every day is a beautiful day. You know, it's always just
Yeah,
it
man.
could be,
Hey,
could be a little hot, but if it is, then it's going to be cool at night. You know,
yeah. I
um,
mean, when's the last time you saw snow? You know, I think it didn't snow in California this year.
it snows in certain parts up by the mountains, I believe, but I
Okay.
haven't seen any snow since I got out here. I heard something about snow, and there was snowing in like freaking Houston and stuff. That was
It was
last year.
crazy this year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't look normal. That's for sure.
Yeah, and like you were saying about dogs, because my parents have a small Yorkie, and he likes to try to get out, and because he was actually born on like a farm setting too, and so he's like one of those like, hey, I want to get out, walk around. He does his walks and everything, and so he's used to being outside and running around doing his thing. But yeah, I mean it's cool to have that type of animal that it's gonna at least get you out and be active, because especially with a lot of people today that are so sedentary, and it's hard for them to kind of do things to really get out. And when you think of when you put them in the minds of saying like, oh, well, you got to exercise, and they think like, oh, well, I don't want to go to a gym and do that, like the simple things like that, just having a dog that wants to go out and do a walk, walk him, that and you're basically walking him, and you're getting your exercise in there too, and before you know it, you can be walking for an hour and not even know it.
It's amazing. The and another thing, I can tell you this like for a fact because I had a very diametrically opposite life when I lived in Philly last. I was working at a call center and I was really sedentary,
Mm-hmm.
like eating a ton of Wendy's and all that too. I was pretty
Yeah.
chubby and all that. And I remember when I came out here, kind of like the first job I could get was labor. So
Uh-huh.
it was pretty decent pay, and I was like, I could stick. I'm not that old yet. I could still do some labor, and it's just unbelievable how
Right.
the way that that it like being outside all the time and like being in the sun and having like that sort of that burst of energy in the morning when you wake up, vis-a-vis instead of having to, you know what I mean? It's just like
Yeah.
I was an evangelist against like going to the gym and everything like that. I was just like, oh God, I can't even imagine, after all this annoying stuff I've had to do all day, doing some more annoying stuff. But then if you
Mm-hmm.
trick me into it, like, like the making it my job and having me have a dog, and all of a sudden I'm like, damn, I'm like
Yeah. Right.
somewhat in shape. It was fun. It's fun to find that out, that you're like, you think you're all washed and old, and then it's just like, actually, I just needed to knock the rust off a little bit.
Yeah, and there's like that they it's like one of those things like they say that they keep you young as you're you know and keeping yourself physically active to be able to continue to do a lot of things you do, and especially when you have a really active dog though. And what kind of dog do you have?
Oh my God, he's I forgot to tell you that part. So his name is Mac. I named him for Mac Miller, R.I.P. One of my
R.I.P.
favorite artists. Yeah. So Mac is a he's they call him a Kelpie, which is like it's a cattle dog kind of, so Australian cattle dog and Australian Shepherd mix,
Mm.
which are two of the crazy, like they're just about as smart as human beings, both kinds of breeds, and you put them together and it's just like this cartoon character of this, like he makes so many faces that he makes more faces than I do. I only have about four proper facial expressions. He's got 50. But yeah, maybe he'll come running over at some point. If so, maybe I could point the camera at him.
Yeah.
He's the best, though. I swear. Like if you're on the fence about getting a dog and you think it's going to be too much work or anything, it's so rewarding. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're just. I've always thought dogs are the one of the prime pinnacles of things that are on the earth. I just can't. I can't say enough about how much I love having a dog.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I've always been a dog person myself, and you know, uh, it's one thing having a kid. I mean, it's either a kid or a dog with some people, but I feel, I have my son, and then when we go over to my parents' house, we have the little dog over there, so we have our little ties connected with all those things. So it's definitely cool to have both different types of experience, because we had my parents' dog since 2010. So they raised him from like a little Yorkie, and he's like, I think he's now, yeah, he's like going into his 12th year of life. So
Wow. Well, then little dogs like that, well, smaller dogs like that, they can actually maintain they're they can still run around and stuff till that age. It's kind of great to have like
Yeah,
a
you could
dog,
definitely tell that he has slowed down a little bit here and there. But he's still doing really well, and because obviously we know dogs lifespans are a little bit shorter than human lifespans, but it's crazy to know they have a really short lifespan, but it's like you spend so much time that it feels like a lifetime that you're with them.
I think I'm gonna have to figure out a way to like accelerate the robot body process, just so I can. I want them to be able to make this dude live forever. And
Right,
I'm not sure if it'll be possible, but
right.
science is racing against time. While my dude is only 2 years old, so we got plenty of time left to.
Oh yeah. And some people still believe in science these days. Some people, the people that really take science serious.
Well, I take some science seriously, and
Hmm.
I think it's. I mean, I think that we were touched on the fact that that things are getting very very weird over, and like, let's say, did you hear that it was like 108 degrees in Spokane, Washington
I
for like
didn't. I didn't.
5 days? Oh my god! And it's like British Columbia, where it's usually like maybe 65 degrees this time of year. It was like
Mhm.
118. It's like, what? Like,
And yeah, I mean, I've definitely noticed even around here, the winters, like the span of when winter ends and begins, or begins and ends, has definitely shifted in the last, like, I'd say 5-10 years, because we used to get winter starting around like November-ish, and now it's like we're not really getting the cold winter weather until January, and then it
oh,
really and then winter would usually end around, like, or start warming up around March. But now it's like going almost into like May, June. Sometimes we don't really see that like big spike of warm weather until like the mid May, end of May into June sometimes. So like I definitely feel the weather spans, and like even the weather cycles are definitely changing with over the last couple years. And I mean, I've always been like a big uh you know person with like the global warming and stuff, and I know some people have their things about that, but I definitely feel it's a thing that we need to take serious for certain extents. But
I
it's
got to tell you, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
no.
I emphatically agree with you. I think about it all day, every day. I have for a very long time. Let's say about 2 decades. People have been, sort of kicking the can down the road and being like, oh, we don't really need to stop people from driving themselves to work in separate cars every day because,
Hmm.
oh, think of all the tire shops and all the gas stations
Yeah.
and O'Reilly Auto Parts and all this and that. And then it's like, nah, like, no, you guys are not getting away with anything. Like, it's very clear that like this stuff needs to stop. Like, oh, how about fix the subway? How about build some more subways? And
Right.
they're like, no, no, we're gonna fund Tesla. Here's $1 billion. It's like that's not solving anybody's problem to make a $60,000 car. So,
Right.
I really hope that people start to get serious now that it is. Some people consider it to be too late, or
Hmm.
they're like doomers about stuff at this point. I believe in the capacity of human beings um, to unite and solve problems, even though there are so many obstacles to it. I believe that the spirit of humanity might still be able to rise to the challenge. But like you said, people just pretend that science doesn't exist, in
Yeah.
this regard. And now it's being demonstrated right before their eyes.
Yeah, I feel the generation we're in, we're definitely in the generation of like we're trying to go through a change in how this world is looking, and how we're all acting with each other. And I think we're in that middle ground where you have like the XYZ of so many generations that are mixed and living right now, where we have our grandparents that have their upbringings of how they lived. Then we have our parents that had their upbringing, and then we have us, and then some of our kids. So we all have different areas that we've grown up in, and everybody thinks, oh well, when I was young we were doing this, and when that. So I think we're all trying to get through that, sense of change, because everybody's so fixed on what happened in the past, and they want to change the past. And we've seen all these things, in the news and everything, that with the political figures and the statues and everything. But it's just I think everybody's trying to look into the future and try to do things better. Do I think some things are the right and wrong way? Yes. And we can all read our news articles about all that. And but I feel we're getting, and I guess I ran into a tangent there, but I
Yeah,
feel we're getting
I love.
into I feel we're getting into, like, we want to adapt change into the way we're living, but we have so many people right now that have their opinions on what we should be going through with change, because everybody has their own opinions of change. And I think it's going to take a couple more years for our generation to get into these big seats to really start enforcing that change, because we still have all these bigger political figures that are still controlling everybody. So I think once, like, our age group and younger are really starting to come up into those seats, if we have any any people in our generation that are destined to be in that type of position, I don't think we're going to see that much of a change until we start getting into those positions.
Yeah, I'm old enough to run now. So what's
Yeah,
up?
yeah, I think we're all. I think you and me are kind of within that same age range too.
Yeah,
So
I think I had to turn 38, right, to be president, and so now I'm 39, so I'm
there
ready
you
to go.
go.
Um, I was going to say that I think that I think the most important thing is to just okay. So when we look at, like, the everything is decaying, right? Like the bridges that are in the road. Cali taxes people to a pretty high degree, and if you drive on a highway out here, it's actually kind of amazing. Like, it's safe. You drive on highways in Philly, and it's just like, it's not just the people, it's the roads themselves. It's like
Yeah,
there's always some Chevy Blazer crashed into the guardrail, wherever you go, and it's just like, no offense to Chevy Blazers, it's just a common, old car that people have, but
right.
like, but I think that, like, it's just the denial of, like, like the Miami collapse, stuff like that. Like, they
Hmm.
need to be taxing these people that have millions of, all these millions in the bank, and they have the loopholes or whatever, and then that's the money that's missing from the budget to fix the bridge and the building and all that stuff. So I feel like that's, like, the number one, just to close these loopholes, and to just show these people that they're seen, like, that they're
Yeah.
not getting with anything. And I feel like the young people, like, and I consider us to be pretty young. I
Hmm.
think said that that's going to be it's not going to be the parents are not going to be able to, the parents of people, I don't know, my parents are pretty much are quite a bit older too,
Yeah.
but, like, these people aren't going to be able to see the world the way that we see it. They're not going to be able to change what they watch TV news, that, what I mean, we get our information from different places, we see different things. They're not going to be able to be convinced to overthrow any kind of system, in any way. But we see exactly what's happening, right? Like, it's like,
Yeah.
wow,
And I
like,
think
the
that's what I was
money
trying to get at
movement.
too. That we have uh, our way that we would want to see change, but I think these bigger people don't necessarily see the change that we want. They just kind of put the icing on the cake to kind of be like, okay, well, let's just give them this to kind of see if they'll just calm down for a little bit, and just kind of keep patting it, hovering it over, and
Yeah, and
until.
it's just like, God, is it's up until this year, until that it was very obvious that that's not working anymore.
Yeah.
And RIP to all those people that passed away because we didn't have the infrastructure to support their medical care during the pandemic.
Yeah,
it's,
yeah,
it's a terrible thing.
it's a shame for all those people. And you know, uh, yeah, I mean, I haven't really read too much into it, but just anytime those type of you know unfortunate situations happen, you think of the people that lost people in those situations and what they're going through. And it's a unfortunate thing when people don't take the right situations. And I'm sure there's bigger things that go into it. But if it was just simple things of like, oh well, we got to get this fixed because we've been told this needs to get fixed, or this needs to be repaired because that needs to be repaired.
Somebody needs to be punished. Like it actually,
Yeah,
that you can't just buy your way out of trouble anymore here.
right.
If we have anything to say about it, me and you,
Hmm.
then.
Yeah, if anything is we've discussed it here, and if one or two people see it, that's cool.
Exactly.